Good morning from the UK, James Lerner. It's ages and ages since I posted a proper video preach, and this one I've been itching to do all week. Last weekend I had a lot going on in my life and things were difficult, and I was in a right state. I was in a right bad mood with all sorts of things. And my saying always is that God always knows the answer to our problems even before we know there's a problem. And God had the answers in place, possibly even weeks before I had a problem, before I knew there was a problem, from two independent sources, both speaking into a particular situation on the same day within the same hour. Where to start? I was wondering about my situation in church. I was wondering about the situation in other lines of ministry that I have. Do some street work, work for a food bank, work for an animal charity, and I really thought that I needed to be on a Wednesday. Certainly, I needed to be in at least two places at once, which, as we all know, is not possible. So I was really in a right mood, and I was tired physically. I was tired emotionally. I was tired spiritually, and I went to church. Not really. I'll admit I'm not really wanting to be there, but I decided I was going to go and see what happened, and I was not disappointed. There's a line in the song, "Nothing else matters, nothing else will do," that where we ask God to take us back to where we started, and that started off taking me. That did take me back. It took me back to probably 1977, 78, thereabouts, to a conference, a Bible conference in North Wales. I'd not all that long come to the Lord, and I had a lot going on, a lot of issues in my life. Life was not everything it should have been or could have been. And cutting quite a long story short, because it's going back quite a while, I can't remember all the circumstances, but I can remember what happened. And frankly, I was knocked out in the spirit for around 45 minutes. I was completely and totally out cold, as it were, but God was working. I felt such an intense wash over of peace that I hadn't known before, and if I'm honest, haven't really known since. And God took me back to that moment, and I suppose he broke my heart again last Sunday morning through our worship leader, through the first song that we sang. I was absolutely sobbing before God. And then our pastor spoke later that morning in his sermon about Jesus having to be in both his about his father's business and in his father's house. And very key thing fell into place at that moment, because there's a church meeting, church lunch group that I've been committed to for 6 or 7 years, and we often do street evangelism at the same time as this meeting, and both were so important to me, and I really wasn't sure how to do both. I was going to give up the lunch group in order to concentrate on the street work on a Wednesday, but through the worship and through the preaching, I've been able to resolve the issue that it's okay to do both. It's okay to do the street work when I can, on the days when I am free. It's okay to do the lunch group, and it's just taken a big weight off my shoulders. The two people who were speaking, the worship leader and the pastor, didn't know anything of my situation. They didn't know the mood that I was in. They didn't know the brokenness and the confusion and the hurt and the anger and everything else that I had. But God knew. God knew possibly several weeks ago, because these sermons don't just write themselves. They've probably been thinking about this for a while, and independently of each other, it spoke exactly into the situation that I was faced with, and it's really helped. I still wasn't able to get to the lunch group on Wednesday for various issues, but I want to acknowledge that God really does know the answer to our problems even before we know there's a problem. He knew the problems that I would face this week, last weekend, even before I was born, before the world was created. He knew my situation. He knew what I would need at this particular moment. He knew that I am here. I'm alive today for such a time as this. And I thank our pastor, I thank our worship leader, but most of all, I thank God.